It has come to our notice that some pedestrians still prefer to jump the slab that divides the road instead of using the footbridge which has been created for them. Before, when the footbridges were not present, many complained since there were accidents that were happening on the road and individuals were losing their lives for trying to cross the road to the other end. There was one serious one which happened on the Medina to Adenta road where a little girl lost her life and the whole communities were enraged, stopping cars from moving, burning tires on the roads, and refusing to stop until something was done about the footbridges, because a lot of lives were claimed on those roads and the inhabitants had had enough. After a lot of talks and comments were made, the bridges were sped up and they came to a completion. Now, after this was done, we saw something funny happening. Instead of all the pedestrians using the footbridge, a certain percentage refused to and still preferred to cross the roads even when cars were speeding and approaching. When this was seen, the police were employed to put a tactical strategy in place to force those pedestrians who were not willing to use the footbridge to go back to use them. We saw people were being arrested for preventing others from using the footbridge and from using the roads, especially when the traffic was green for the light for the cars to pass. When you take a good look at how these things were going, it went a long way to get people to do the right thing. But there were those who complained that what the police were doing at that time was not fair. They claimed this was not a serious criminal offense and it was not right for the police to arrest them for crossing the road and refusing to use the footbridge. There were those who also explained that they were in a hurry to go to places, and sometimes because their bosses at work demanded them to be there as soon as possible, they chose to cross the roads instead of using the footbridge. And then there were those who also argued, saying they were not only crossing the road when cars were approaching, but they waited till the cars were made to stop by the traffic light and then before they crossed the roads, because they did not see the difference in using the road and in using the footbridge. Some also further explained that the footbridge was too long and they did not understand why whoever made those footbridge decided to make them so long to the ground that sometimes you would have to make different turns and walk a long way before you get to the other side of the road. Some also explained that they were aging and they were too old to climb these footbridges. And as many people explained their reasons, we could understand why many decided to cross the roads, endangering their lives instead of using the footbridges. But don't they have a point when you think about it? For example, the man who said he only crossed the road when the traffic was red for the light for the cars had a point and brought some understanding to us. You see, when it is green and the cars are going, it will be very dangerous for him to cross. But if the cars are stopped after a red light, it is obvious that there was no danger that could approach and he could cross easily to the other end. However, because the police force has been given the job to make sure that people's lives are not lost, they have to do their part by preventing people from breaking the rules that were set with regards to crossing the road. Now, after this season of catching people for not using the footbridge passed, a lot of people use the footbridge than before, and the exercise was seen to be very successful. However, during this last half of the year, especially from June and July, we've noticed that a great number of people have started neglecting and abandoning the footbridges again. And what is even worse is the nature in which some people used to cross the road. Unlike the man before who waits for the traffic light to be red for the cars before crossing, we see many people crossing the roads when the traffic is green for cars. And when you ask them why, they'll tell you because the cars are not near them, and though it is green, the cars are far away and to take a while for the cars to get near them. Whether this is a valuable response, we leave that to the listeners to judge. But many are still crossing the roads and jumping over the slab like it is their house and it's in their compound. We even saw one crazy particular one where the guy who crosses the road will cross the road like he's not afraid of the car, and actually when the car is approaching, he goes close to the car before he crosses the road. When we saw this, we thought maybe this guy was losing it or was going nuts. But then we saw that it was actually a pattern that was employed by most of them, especially some youth, those who loaded the vehicles. They rush so much towards the vehicles that are approaching when they are crossing the roads, as if they are not afraid that they could be hit. When you ask them, they'll tell you that the drivers can see them, so the drivers will not make that mistake of hitting them. Now, though this is true that the drivers could see them, anything could happen on the road, and in any second, life could be lost. But before we finish that discussion, shouldn't we also look at those traders who are hawking on the road? Why should we prevent pedestrians from crossing the roads, and yet we will allow those hawkers who sell pure water, food, and other stuff on the road to walk right in the middle of the road to those who are approaching a traffic light? Sometimes some of these things that are being sold on the road would even shock you. Sometimes you see dogs. Sometimes you see dog chains. Sometimes you see people even trying to sell a mattress right on the road. And many things occur as life goes on our roads. The question here is, should these people be separated from those who want to cross the road? Why are they allowed to hawk on the road, the same road which is a danger to those who cross? Should it be the same road which these traders are allowed to hawk on? Now, we are not saying they shouldn't be allowed to do their work. We are just saying if the traders and the hawkers who are on the road walking in the middle and sometimes at very dangerous points on the road are allowed to use these roads in such a manner, then these pedestrians who want to cross shouldn't be prevented also, because they are the same human beings. As we look at that, we also wonder if there's a certain implementation that should be made to give pedestrians and traders the awareness that the road should not be used anyhow. And if so, how should it be done? Deciding to do this the right way will make a clear difference between what may be termed as going against the rules of the road and just doing your best to either make money or go to where you are going to. It is true that whatever happens, the road cannot be prevented from being crossed when an individual has made his mind to. It is true that no matter what happens, people will continue to sell their wares on the road. But it's also true that the more they are on these roads, the more they put their lives in danger. You should also note that not all drivers are correct. There are some who just have to do something stupid one time or the other. And also you have to look at the fact that some cars are not perfect for the road, and anything could happen at any time. So as we go about looking at the footbridges and those who refuse to use them, we advise all those who are listening to be very careful. It is true that when you are late for a place, you definitely not use the long route to go to where you are going to. But be very careful. And for those of you who must, look left, right, and left again before crossing. Also, don't cross the road when you see vehicles approaching with speed, thinking that because they can see you, they will not veer towards you. A driver could be distracted at any time and may not see you. Also, a brake can fail at any time and may not respect your presence. The fact that you may be using the road all the time and are good with the roads and know how to cross the road does not mean that when death comes, it will respect you for that. It could be that a car could go through some pothole or something that would cause the car to somersault or spin around. And though the car may not be heading towards you, it could hit you, injure you, or in worst case scenario, kill you. Because of this, we advise pedestrians to be very careful when crossing the roads. At the end of the day, the worst thing that could happen to you is death. And even if you don't die, you could be badly injured. We don't want those of our citizens who could be very productive and who are part of the workforce, the labor force, which are very essential for this nation to move forward, to be lost because they were trying to cross the road or they were trying to sell something on the road. We are also wondering if the police should go back to those tactics which were employed before, because in the past, after they were employed, we saw a drastic change in the way the road was used, and we saw many beginning to use the footbridge than they used to before. The general thing is to make sure that lives are saved and that people are kept from harm. And so if the police decide to embark on that exercise again, we would understand them. We would also plead that they show a little mercy when they catch those who have offended and those who have been caught crossing the roads in ways they prescribe as wrong. And then also would also like to point out that they have to also look at those traders who use the roads all the time. There are some traders who will be even seen walking in the middle of the road where the lines are, because they feel the cars will not cross the lines, and they would walk with loads on them for as long as they can. They continue to walk and walk and walk, and sometimes when cars are speeding, you see them try to stop and stay still. But this is very dangerous. There should be a sort of plan to make them aware that they could also lose their lives, because we've seen that in the past. The only thing is, we shouldn't prevent them from making an income, because this is the way they survive, and this is the only way they know how to make money. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.